Welcome, everybody. And by the way, as my guest, you can't talk until I introduce you. So, whoop. Welcome, everybody, to the Papa Bear Podcast. The Papa Bear Podcast, if you're telling your friends about it. I'm super excited about this episode, as I am every episode. If you watched this last week, we got to have our Christmas party. It was the saddest Christmas party of two people. If you've never been to a Christmas party that only has two people, you don't know what you're missing out, or maybe you do. You're missing out on a lot of people, which is what happens there. We'll get to that in a second. I have a special segment that we're going to start doing here on the Papa Bear Podcast. And before I introduce you, some of my guests, all of my 12 listeners know from last week who you are. But maybe on the off chance that we added one more and we have 13, would you please introduce yourself?
It's not a trick question, right?
I hope not.
Actually introduce myself? I'm allowed to speak?
Yes, you're allowed to speak
cool.
now. For all of those 2 minutes that you couldn't speak. Maybe it was only 1 minute, actually. I think it was less time.
So, hi, I'm Olivia. I don't know what else to say. What do you want me to say?
I don't know. That was a good intro.
Hi, I'm Olivia. That's it.
Hi, she's Olivia, and she's a secret agent.
No, I'm not.
That's what a secret agent would
Oh
say.
my gosh. I'm not. I promise.
I really should prepare before. That's the second week in a row that I've had to do that. So, here we go, guys.
You can also track time now.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. Okay, so, listen, I have... Oh, we're going to do an ASMR segment now?
Oh, no.
Be calm.
Pecan?
No, I said be calm. Okay, you know what? Listen. All right, so we're entering a segment. The very first segment is dad joke segment.
Oh, yeah.
So here's my first dad joke. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
What do you call a secret agent that's not secret anymore?
Oh, my gosh. What?
An agent.
Oh, my gosh. You're the worst.
And now for the really good one. Are you ready?
Oh, there's another?
This is actually a story. This tells itself out in a story through questions.
Oh, no.
This is educational. There are 500 bricks on a plane.
I'm not going to be able to keep up.
If you keep interrupting me, no, you will not. No, you will not. There are 500 bricks on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
One falls off. How many are left?
How did it fall off of the plane?
Why is that relevant? That's not the question.
Why is a plane made of bricks?
No, it's not made of bricks. They're on a
Sounds
plane.
like it. Okay, I don't know. Tell me, how did it fall off?
No, how many are left?
499?
499. Perfect. That's great.
Okay.
That's the answer. That's good. Very good.
Progress.
What are the 3 steps to putting an elephant in a refrigerator?
Why is this relevant?
No, just answer the question. That's why it's
I
relevant.
don't know.
You
Kill it,
signed
chop
the
it into
waiver.
bits and put it in the fridge? I mean...
She's terribly efficient about this. The 3 steps are: you open the fridge, you put the elephant in, and you close the
I
fridge.
like my way better.
I feel like you would. What are the 4 steps to putting a giraffe in the refrigerator?
Same as before, except you have to cut its neck in half because it's too long. I don't know.
She's a very sadistic secret agent.
I'm being practical. Are we
Okay.
talking a normal sized fridge or like an industrial fridge? Because
I
that
think we
makes all the
clearly
difference.
established this is an industrial fridge with the elephant.
Okay, but industrial fridges aren't as tall as giraffes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the 4 steps are: you open the fridge,
Okay.
you take the elephant out,
Oh my god.
you put the giraffe in, and you close
the door.
the fridge. Okay, you ready for the next question?
How many
This is
questions
telling a
are
very
there?
intricate question, or intricate story. I think
Okay.
there's 3 more.
Oh joy.
The Lion King
Oh yeah.
is having a birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
All of the animals attend but one.
Mm-hmm.
Which animal is it and why?
The gazelle because it's its midnight snack?
Why?
I don't know.
It's the giraffe.
Because it's in the fridge.
This is why we don't get studio audiences. It's the giraffe because he's in the fridge. He's stuck.
You know,
Nobody let him out.
how rude.
Thank you. Okay, next question. You ready? We're coming to the end here.
Okay.
Sally wants to cross an alligator-infested river.
That's not smart. How old is Sally? It's the
Doesn't
first
say.
question I should be asking.
I feel like if she's in an Amazon, like near it, she should be able to. Anyway, there is no bridge, and the only way that she can get across is by swimming. She swims across and makes it to the other side safely. Why?
I don't know, maybe the alligators just weren't interested in eating Sally?
They weren't there. They were at the birthday party. Final question. Are you ready?
No.
Sally dies anyway.
Uh-huh.
My dog is now out. She's very excited. Sally dies anyway. Why?
She got an infection from the Amazon River and died.
No, she was hit in the head with a brick. All right, this has been the dad joke segment of the Papa Bear podcast. Thank you very much.
You know, I hate you.
That's an acceptable reaction. All right, so...
I regret telling you to make it a segment.
Excuse me so much. My goodness. All right.
Don't die like Sally did.
Thank you, guys. Well, we do have a roof over our head. So, go ahead. So, we know how you react to good humor. It's not well. So let's describe a little bit more of. Let's describe a little bit more of who you are. And my dog will now not go outside. We're gonna be editing a lot here.
Sorry, guys.
Dixie.
Dixie, come on.
Dixie. Dixie, go outside. Go outside. You loon. Okay, good. You can take that loon part and put that anywhere you want.
You loon?
You loon?
It becomes like a ringtone.
So, yeah, you loon? Anyway, so now that we know how you react to good humor, let's learn a little bit more about you. You are, your name is Olivia. You are a college student
I am.
who is learning to be a secret agent
No, I'm not.
for the CIA.
I'm not.
Yes, she is.
No, I'm not.
She can't tell you.
It's not.
So, you are actually, you said that I can actually ask about this.
You can.
Not that you can give me answers.
Not a lot.
You are in an internship. Could
I
you tell
am.
me a little bit about that intern? A very little bit, because I don't want snipers
It's more like I would get in a lot of legal trouble.
with snipers.
You know, anyway, let's move on. So, I'm interning for the National Commission on Military, National, and Public Service. So, it's a mouthful. It's a lot.
They become S.H.I.E.L.D. in the future, so you guys know.
No, but the whole goal of the commission is just,
Protect our country, princess. We'll show you other Black Ops missions.
no, it's about mainly asking the question, Congress asking the question of how we get citizens more involved in military and public service.
Okay.
So, like becoming EMTs, police officers, firefighters, that sort of thing, but also like the
Secret
Peace
agents.
Corps and stuff like that. It's about how to get people more involved. So it's just a question that Congress has asked the commission to answer and to like find ways in which they should be able to do that and that can be implemented.
Yeah. So that was a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And but okay, so with that being said, your internship,
Yeah.
you are currently in school at George Washington University.
The George Washington University.
The George Washington
Like the-
University.
Yep, yep.
The George Washington University, if you're telling your friends about it.
Yep.
Which is in Washington, D.C.
It is.
And what are you going to school for? What's your major?
It's also a mouthful. I'm going into international affairs with a concentration on security policy. It's a mouthful.
Secret agent.
I'm not a secret agent.
Secret agent can't tell you if she's a secret agent. Listen, this is the worst part. And it's the best part at the same time.
Uh-huh.
If you were going to be a secret agent,
I couldn't tell you.
you couldn't tell me. So you could 100% just be denying this and you're fully like, you're gonna leave this place and go like,
And a helicopter.
yeah, like there's a Black Hawk sitting out back.
Yeah, fully. I'm gonna
Wow.
do that. Just letting you know. Like it's waiting outside for me after this is done.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Casually, don't ever offer me a helicopter ride. But that's fine. We've only been friends for
How
5
long has it
years.
been?
5.
Has it been 5 or 6?
5 or 6.
I was a sophomore. 5 or 6.
Were you at my wedding?
No.
Okay, so it's
Sylvia
only
was.
been like 4 or 5.
I wasn't. Sylvia was.
Okay, so 4 or 5 years. We've only been friends. So you don't owe me a Black Hawk ride or anything. It's fine.
Yeah.
So today, we're talking about a very interesting subject, and I think this is one that, if you joined us a couple of weeks back, we talked about the very heavy topic of human trafficking with my very good friend Ruthie, which was very deep, and we got really into it. The last time I checked, and maybe by the time this drops, well, the goal will be complete. But
awesome.
yeah, so Ruthie was raising money for human trafficking efforts, and at the last time I checked, before the episode aired, she was below 50% of her goal.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
So if you remember that, not even a week after the episode aired, she was $129 short of her goal.
Wow.
120. So listen, I'm going to attribute that to my wonderful listeners a lot. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that credit for you guys. That you were 100%, you were amazing, and we pushed that. And I'm hoping that by the time this drops, that this 100%, like, she hit it and exceeded it. That's what I'm hoping for. And being $129 short last time I looked.
That's one donation.
Man, that's one donation.
Come on.
So,
one rich person.
so
Not me.
please don't alienate our rich listeners like you alienated Joy FM. So, but that's fantastic. So, this week, however, we are talking about how would you say this? Unity. About cultural unity. And I think that's a good way to say this. We have a real problem in our culture now. And I think that I've seen this crop up more and more within the last dozen years or so of being alive than I have in historical instances, where we are now seeing a separation in our country that's very similar to a Civil War era, where we had North and South, except now we see it across political lines, especially.
Yeah.
It's something so huge. Like, you cannot go on Facebook and not find something negative about the other political party. Like, you will not go on Facebook
You can't
tonight.
go on social media.
You can't go on any social media
come on,
whatsoever.
Twitter, let's not forget Twitter.
Oh, Twitter is just
Ugh.
awful with it.
Cesspool. I have Twitter, but it's also a cesspool.
I don't have a Twitter.
Yeah.
I feel like we should have a Twitter. Yeah, probably. But you will not go on any social media today and be able to avoid, and this is a challenge. Like, this would be a good challenge for our listeners. I challenge you, and I want you to time yourselves. Go on social media as normally like you would. And I want you to time yourselves on how long it takes from the time that you open the app until you find a negative post about a politician. And that can be either way. That can be a Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter.
Election year.
Especially during election. So I want you to time yourself, and I want you to, like, look at that. And I guarantee that unless you just have the most wholesome friend group that has ever existed in your, like,
Wholesome
Barney,
family,
the Teletubbies, Dora the Explorer. Probably
PBS.
Dora's not safe. I don't know. Like,
Probably not. I mean,
but unless you have the most wholesome group of friends on your Facebook, you're not going to make it very long.
are you gonna make it very long?
This is the real reason why we don't have studio audience. It's because I react when people react. Ah, goodness. But yeah, so you're not going to make it very long, right? You will get on social media, and it's almost guaranteed that within the first, I'll give it a minute. If you are just, like, consistently scrolling and looking through posts, that you're going to find something bashing somebody.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's so crazy. And I think
Sad.
it is sad. It's sad. And it's opened up this climate in this country, and I think it's bleeding across the world, that we can't have conversation anymore.
Mm-hmm. You've heard me rant about this all the time.
Oh yeah.
I rant about it all the time.
Listen, this is why I brought you on.
Because I
love
rant
it.
about it?
Because you rant. But
It's not normally a good thing.
Well, when you're running a podcast, ranting is great. But this is I think the climate that we're in now, where you are either Democrat, you're Republican.
Yeah, there's no in between, and if
You-
you're in between, you're ridiculed.
If you're in between, you can't make up your mind.
Mhm.
You're indecisive
Yep.
because
Your opinions aren't legitimate.
Mm.
Yep.
So this is why I brought you on, because growing up, you have had a very, very diverse group of friends,
I
a
have.
very diverse group of family, and you maintain a fairly conservative. And listen, let me make this clear. I am not making this about you have a very conservative viewpoint, so conservatives are the best. That's not what I'm saying. Before we get too far into this, I don't want this to become a Republicans are best thing
Yeah,
because they're
'cause
Christians.
they
That's
are.
not that is not what we're doing.
Yeah.
I want to make this very clear before we start this conversation that I believe that all viewpoints should be respected.
100%.
Because if we stop respecting people with opposite viewpoints, then we will always stay in a bubble. And we
Yeah.
will never hear anything else outside of that bubble.
Political echo chamber is what it becomes.
Yes, political echo chamber. I'm so glad you know that term because I forgot. But yeah, so I just want to make it very clear before we start this conversation that if you are on either side of the aisle, if you don't care about the aisle, if you are way too involved with the aisle, it doesn't matter to me. Like, we are here to have a conversation. We are here to understand why we can't have conversation anymore.
Yeah.
And so, leading in with that intro, you held a fairly conservative viewpoint. And growing up, a lot of your friend base is not
Yeah.
on the conservative side of that. So,
Yeah.
so we brought you in today because I want to have a conversation with you about how do you maintain that, first off?
It's hard.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's really hard. Especially when it comes to making new friends, being in college and trying to make new friends, being someone who... So my parents call me a liberal conservative. And I've always been this way, really. Because I respect people's opinions and that everyone's different and everyone's gone through different experiences, that the way we look at life is always going to be different. And so when it came to making friends, especially in college, in DC, it was hard.
What is the general political climate at your school?
Very tense.
Oh. So it really doesn't lean one way or the other.
It's very liberal democratic, very
Okay.
much so. And I've had experiences where I've mentioned that I'm more conservative and my views are automatically just thrown out the window, like they don't matter, which is very aggravating.
I can understand.
But I've also met not a lot of, because I'm an introvert, and so I don't meet a lot of people, but I've
Secret
met
agent.
some really great individuals who are more, democratic or liberal or left-leaning, and they really value my opinions, and I value theirs, and I think that's just so important.
Yeah.
And I have a friend, his name's Quentin.
Shout out to Quentin.
Yes, hi Quentin.
Do you have his Instagram handle?
I don't have it memorized. I'm a bad friend.
You are terrible. No, you're not.
Sorry. But,
I won't put him on blast like that.
he was the very first friend I made in DC. So I transferred from a school in Miami to a school in DC right after my freshman year because I was absolutely miserable.
Miami.
And so, and so I transferred, and I met him literally the very first day of orientation, and we became friends instantly. And he's very much like a democratic, very left-leaning. He's not a Christian. He considers himself more agnostic. But we have such great in-depth conversations about everything, including God and, who he is to me and, like just what his word says, and also conversations about politics. And we value each other's opinions totally and respect them, even if we might not agree with them.
Yeah.
And so I've come to value his friendship so much.
Yeah.
I've also had really negative experiences where I met a group of friends. They were friends at the time, and we went out to dinner. And I remember this so vividly because I was so caught off guard. But he's one of the friends. I won't say his name. He started to rant about how Republicans were racist. All of them, every single one was racist, and that they didn't deserve to have opinions. And it was very not good. I was not pleased because a lot of my family is Republican and conservative, and I'm more conservative. And it caused a big problem. Like, I walked out of the restaurant. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Because I was being belittled.
Yeah.
And so I've also had experiences like that. And that's why it's so hard, especially in D.C., because you have people who are so stuck in my way is the best way, and anything else is wrong. And on both sides.
Well, and I think we come from, there was this age of, I vote Republican because I'm Republican.
Ugh, don't even
Or
start
I vote
on
Democrat
that.
because I'm Democrat.
I hate that.
And it's so, like, ridiculous
It
because, like, the parties have obviously shifted from when they were originally founded. Obviously, because,
100%.
yeah. And so, as viewpoints shift and people change, like, it is ridiculous to think that you would vote because this is the way you've always voted. If it lines up with your viewpoints and with your morals and your ideologies, then that's fine.
But the party shouldn't be the defining factor of that. The person should
That's
be.
it.
The person who you're voting for should have those viewpoints.
Yes.
Regardless of what party they're in.
Yes.
So even if you're a Republican and you hold Christian values, if you find someone who's in the Democratic Party that has values similar to yours,
Yeah.
vote for them.
Yeah. 100%.
Because you want people who represent you in the government.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah.
want people that are, in their 60s and 70s and have been in Congress for 30 years until the day they die.
Yeah, all because they are a party. And I think that's a huge problem. That's something that we have to get beyond. If we don't understand that people change and parties change, and listen, if you yourself are not looking at your own morals and your own values before you go into the booth, then there's going to be a really big problem when all of a sudden this politician is like making all of these crazy things happening, and you're like, oh, I didn't vote for. Yeah, you absolutely did. Like, and so this I think leads straight into the other half of this. Like, we kind of talked a little bit about like the environment that you were in, and like how you've always had a very diverse group, and it can be good, it can be bad. It all depends on, like, I think open-mindedness is one thing, but also it takes two. Like, you yourself cannot be the only person who's like, oh, I'm going to respect your views and your opinions. If the other person is sitting at the dinner table bashing a generalized group,
then you have every right to get up and leave.
Yeah, I
Be
mean,
respectful
100%.
about it, though. I wasn't very respectful about it because I got angry. But
Yeah,
you
she's
should
throwing
be
sushi in their
respectful about
face.
it. I did not.
she like hit him with a crab rangoon.
I did not. But you should be respectful about it.
Yes, 100%.
I
That's a
ended
good
up
number.
actually apologizing to him for how I reacted, because I said some very harsh things.
Probably just proved his point. I'm just kidding.
No, but I ended up apologizing to him because I felt like what I said wasn't a representation of who I was.
Yeah.
And we had a very brief conversation. I was just like, look, like, we're not friends, but
Yeah.
it's fine,
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just be respectful about it.
Yeah.
If someone is belittling you, then just walk away.
So, being in an environment that is so, it's not a bubble by any means. Like, you're not living in this conservative liberal bubble where everybody lines up with your ideologies and everybody agrees with your way of thinking, and everybody, you're not.
It's a
there.
bubble in the opposite direction.
It's a bubble in the
It is. It's a bubble in the opposite direction.
So, and even like growing up, your friend group was fairly like that,
Yeah.
I mean, you had a very diverse. So how do you, and I think this would be a good opportunity for advice as well to our listeners. How do you, excuse me for coughing straight into the mic, maintain these friend groups, while also, maintaining your own morals and your own values and not conforming to what's around you?
Okay. So the first thing I ever do like ever, when I'm talking to someone, not just talking to someone, well, okay, sometimes when I'm talking to someone, if the conversation is getting into the political waters, the first thing I'll mention is that, I fall more on the conservative spectrum. I want you to know that I want to respect your views and what you value, but I would like to be respected as well. And if I say something that you take offense to, please let me know, because I don't ever want to hurt someone's feelings or make them feel like they're less than.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how I start, like, most conversations when it starts to get in those, like, political depths, and also friendships.
Yeah.
Because, like he said earlier, a lot of my friends were not Christian at all, or were not conservative at all. Like, I had a friend who was Wiccan when I was in high school.
It's a very opposing viewpoint.
Yes. But, I mean, I always maintained, like, look, we're very different people, but please, like, let me know if I ever say anything or do anything to, like, hurt you, because I don't want to be that person that hurts someone for something as menial as political viewpoints and religion, I mean, granted, Christianity is, it's a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
But I think as Christians we need to recognize that it's not that for everyone.
It is not the Westboro Baptist version.
Right. And it's not that for everyone. And I think in order to really get your point across when it comes to talking to someone about God and about Christ is that you respect them.
Yeah. Well, and that's huge. I mean, we see that Jesus in Scripture, he met people on their level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't run up to somebody and be like, yo, I am the way. My boys back here, they brought the picket signs. So, just so you know.
Don't even get me started.
Well, I won't. So respect is probably the biggest thing. And I think we've lost a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
And listen, this is like a scary, and I'll ask you this, but something terrifying that I noticed within the last couple of years is that we have actually started using war tactics on opposing political opponents. And so this is what I mean by that. I'm not saying that we're, like, bombing people or using guerrilla warfare on, like, the Democrats or the Republicans. Like, nobody's using that I know of. Do you know of anything, Secret Agent?
I plead the fifth. I will not say anything.
Okay, cool. So, and Ruthie lost her internship. So, what I mean by that is, in wartime, and something that's very difficult is that you have to separate the emotion of, or the aspect that you are going to war against another human being. It helps with the mentality of charging into battle, right? If you don't think that you're going up against, or that you don't think that you're going to be going into killing a human being, it really does help. It makes it a lot easier, right? And so what we would do is, if you recall, in World War II especially, we used this a lot in Vietnam, we called our enemies very many different names and derogatory terms. You're not going to, like, look up and be like, hey, your name is Private so-and-so. Call them Japs, Reds, whatever the case may be, and other very, very derogatory terms. And so what it does is it helps disconnect from the idea that these are human beings, that these are people, and it demonizes them, right? And so what we've started doing politically as human beings is we've started doing this to our political opponents, like those dang Dems and those cons and this is like those leftists and those and we stop identifying, and I think this is terrifying to me because we did similar things in the Civil War. We started calling them Yanks and rebels, and we stopped calling them brother and sister and my next door neighbor and the dude that I see at Starbucks and my barista. And we stop humanizing. Like, we are literally mentally prepared to go to war because we don't want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So, do you see anything in the culture especially that just scares you? Like, do you see anything that's, like, kind of shifting right now that makes you worried?
That's a loaded question.
Very much so.
Yeah. Yes. Specifically regarding, and this is why I say this is a loaded question. Specifically regarding police officers, I feel, and other people of authority, I feel like so a popular way to address a police officer in a derogatory way is by calling them pigs.
Yeah.
And I've had experiences in DC where I have felt afraid to tell people what my dad does for a living because so like people will post on Instagram stories or Snapchats about the DC Police Department that's around campus, calling them pigs and really belittling them. It's not fun. It's very scary, and it makes you feel like where's kind of the respect?
Yeah.
You know, like I get that, especially because the police department in DC, as well as other big cities, are known to be corrupt. You know,
Sure.
corruption is an issue, and so is police officers treating people well. It can also be an issue, you know, and that needs to be acknowledged by everyone, that it can be an issue. But also I feel like it's become an issue that's been so in the spotlight that now they're all demonized. And there's no separating that man from his job anymore, or that woman from their job anymore.
Man,
They're just a pig, and it's scary.
Yeah.
And it scares me for my dad.
Yeah.
Now he's a detective now, so he's not in uniform, which is such a relief for me. But when he was in uniform, every day before he'd go to work, I would tell him I loved him because I wasn't sure if he would come back. And we've had experiences where people have like shot BB guns at our windows and like broken our windows and like done drive-bys by our house because my dad's patrol car was, you know, parked in the driveway and, you know, things like that. And it can be scary. And I get that people want to send a message and to make it clear that, you know, there are bad things that happen in police departments and with police officers. It's a given.
Yeah.
But we also need to recognize that bad things happen in every aspect of life and with every profession. And it's not just police officers that are treating people badly.
Yeah.
You know, there's school teachers that treat their students like garbage.
Oh, yeah. I think we can all think of one, at
yeah.
least.
Well, and even like think special needs teachers that can treat their students horribly or abuse their students because they're special needs and they can't tell anyone what's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
There's like you say, there's good and there's bad in every situation, and I think that just goes back. That was a really good point, by the way. Thank you so much. But it kind of goes back to when we take and we generalize a group, we are instantly dehumanizing. And because there's good and there's bad in every aspect of life and wherever you go and whatever you're into, you will never ever find a perfect group of anything. You'll never find a perfect group of teachers. You'll never find a perfect group of police officers, of nurses, of doctors, of anything, of politicians, of you know. And I think we say this enough that politicians are rotten most of the time. But then they're bloodsuckers, and but then what are we doing? We're starting to dehumanize them as well, and we are instantly cycling back on the problem. And so when we generalize a group and we say, well, I mean, if I can just get really, really, really heavy for a minute, and copyrights to Daily Dose of Heavy. If I can just get heavy for a minute, when we generalize a racial group, when we generalize a political group, when we generalize a religious group, any of it, what we're doing is we're dehumanizing them. And we're saying, well, they don't deserve to be understood by an individual need. They don't understood to be, I don't need to know their name because I know, well, they're Republican. So I know all I need to know about them.
Or they're Muslim.
Or they're Muslim. So I know all I need to know about them. Or they're the refugee. And I think and especially, listen, guys, I mean, if we can always tie this back in, as Christians, if you're listening to this and you've given your life over to Christ, if we are dehumanizing any human being whatsoever, we are not respecting the fact that they are a creation,
Mm-hmm.
and that God took time, that He has a story for them, that He has a purpose for them, and we cannot belittle that, because I personally would hate to answer for that, and I hope that I never have to answer for that in front of God, that I dehumanized one of His kids.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard, especially when it comes to people like who committed crimes or
Oh man,
like terrorists or people who were abusive. It's hard,
yeah,
to be able to look at that person and not just think the abuser or
Yeah.
the terrorist or and
like
and that's not excusing their actions. It's
no, not at all.
But it's being able to look at someone and look at where they came from and how they were raised and what they were around, and being able to say, I can see you, and I know your name, and I can see why you did what you did. It's not okay, but I can see you.
Yeah, and I think a lot people just want to be seen too.
Yeah.
People need to know that they're not just
Their
part of a
voices
group.
heard.
In the last election, when I told a family member who I voted for, and listen, let's just all agree right now, the last election was crap.
It was crazy.
I mean,
I'm glad I couldn't vote.
yeah, it was insane. It was crazy. It was in a very intense period in our political structure of this country, and it didn't matter who you voted for. It was
You had no really
crazy.
great options, yeah.
And so I told a family member who I had voted for, and was instantly just crucified.
Mm-hmm.
And it clicked in my head that this is the way that things change. And it's so crazy that this has not been a silent thing, that we are now protesting in the streets because somebody was elected. We are protesting in the streets because somebody wants to take something away, because and I get it, they're all really good and they're valuable reasons, but we have started wars in the streets of America because of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And we have assaulted our brothers, and we have assaulted women and children, and it's crazy to me. Like, we see some of the stuff on the news, like setting fires to police cars and setting, it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
We've not only dehumanized others, we've dehumanized ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll close with this, because that was very heavy for a while. So I'm really glad we opened with dad jokes. We might close with a dad joke. But you listened to the last episode. I'm out of dad jokes. What advice, as we go forward with this, and we are striving and we are moving forward with the goal of being better constantly. I think even outside of this conversation, even that we should always move forward with the intention of being better. I used to have an archery instructor. For those of you who didn't know, I did archery. I was 13th in the nation.
Wow.
When I was 14 years old.
Jeez.
Thank you. Yeah. So,
No power moves here.
thank you.
Can you sign my shirt?
I have Robin Hood and Arrow twice.
Man.
Anybody know what Robin Hooding is?
Is
Y'all get
it
it?
the
Where you
apple
split it?
thing?
No, it's where you split an arrow with another.
Seriously?
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've done that twice.
Wild.
I'm not gonna lie, it was blind luck. I did not. But anyway, so now that my bragging session's over, I used to have an instructor, and he would say, make every movement purposeful. Which basically means that I'm not going to take a step, I'm not going to move my arm, I'm not going to look down the sights without having a reason to do so.
Right.
So I want to take that perspective into life its very self. As we move forward with purpose of being better, always, what advice would you give this next generation as far as unity and understanding and respect?
I think this advice doubly should be heard by Christians, but just people in general as well. Judgment. Don't judge people. nowhere in the Bible is God called us to judge others. It's not what we're supposed to do. That's God's purpose, not ours. So the next time you meet someone and they make a bad impression on you, or they say something that's off-putting, don't judge them.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where they've just come from. You don't know.
They're having the worst day of their life.
Yeah, you don't know someone, and even if you know that person, you have a relationship with them, you don't know everything that goes on behind closed doors. You really don't.
Yeah.
And so, just don't judge people, and to be able to look at people as individuals and their actions as individual actions that they've taken, I don't know,
yeah.
That's always been my big thing, is just to withhold judgment, because it's not my place. It's never been my place.
That's a good point. Don't judge, and respect.
Yeah.
I think that's always good. So, I think that was a good episode. That was really good.
Happy.
You guys like it? Yeah? You feel me? Out in the audience? That's awesome. Okay, so, Olivia, thank you.
Oh, I couldn't see your hand.
I
I'm
know,
sorry. I'm
it's-
short. It's kind
it's
of
in the
like
mic.
eye level with me.
Olivia's very short. For
I'm
those of you,
5'4".
she's 5'4".
And a half.
I'm 6'3".
5'5" when I wear shoes.
How?
We made a Twitter. 6'3".
We made a Twitter?
Yeah, we just got a Twitter during the episode.
We made a Twitter. Congratulations, guys. What's our handle?
The Papa Bear Podcast.
The Papa Bear
Papa
Podcast.
Bear Podcast.
Okay.
Telling your friends.
Oh my gosh, you did that better than Ruthie. Okay, I'll let you do our outro. So, guys, follow us on Instagram at The Papa Bear Podcast. Follow us on YouTube and subscribe at The Papa Bear Podcast. And now, introducing for the first time ever, so that I can get out my cheesy one-liners and all the dad jokes that you can get your heart on, The Papa Bear Podcast on Twitter. Ruthie. No, I just called you Ruthie.
How rude! Not even close.
Not Ruthie. Olivia.
Thank you.
I'm just going to call you not Ruthie.
Honestly, I think you called me Ruthie once during the
I think I did.
recording, and
Maybe. I
just
might
ignored it.
have.
I willfully ignored it, and I
Oh
was
my
not
goodness.
about to
Okay.
call this man right
So, Olivia,
now.
would you like to do our send-off?
I don't quite remember it completely.
Okay. You just say, this has been the Papa Bear Podcast.
Uh-huh.
The Papa Bear Podcast, if
Okay.
you're telling your friend. And you have to do it dramatically. Or you could do it sing-songily.
No.
She's a singer, if you didn't catch the last episode. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This has been the Papa Bear Podcast. The Papa Bear Podcast, if you're telling your friends. Did I do it
Cue
better than
outro.
Ruthie?